Robbie Moore, you're 36. You grew up in Lincolnshire to farming parents. Did you have a happy childhood?
I did have a happy childhood, yes. It was challenging, of course. Parents got divorced when I was at primary school, which was always tough for any family. And that resulted in Mum moving from Lincolnshire up to Scotland with my sisters.
And you?
No, I stayed in Lincolnshire with my dad.
Oh.
And Dad brought me up with my aunt and my gran, because Dad wasn't great in the kitchen and all that sort of stuff. So my aunt and my gran brought us up from that respect in terms of cooking and the like. But it was but a happy childhood. Yeah, most definitely.
How often did you see your mum?
Probably the main holidays. Christmas, summer, and Easter were the main opportunities for seeing Mum, and at the same time seeing my sisters, my two sisters that went to move with Mum at the time. But it was happy. I suppose it was a new environment for me to get used to, but good. Yeah.
You told me a little bit about your sisters before we started recording. Tell me about Becky.
So Becky is, 32 now. I'm 36. And Becky grew up with learning difficulties, having dyspraxia, dyslexia, and had those challenges associated with it. And that was probably one of the reasons, one of the triggers for me wanting to go into politics, actually, to try and do something about making sure that anyone that's going through that school environment, primary school, secondary school, and then of course getting into the work environment, has that opportunity of being able to get on and when they've got challenges. Becky works incredibly hard, but what I've seen firsthand is the difficulties of when you're struggling with basic skills of reading and writing and life skills. Going through that school environment, that transition into secondary school, not being able to fit into the normal cycle of classes and the like is always quite difficult. And then, of course, you've got to get into the work environment, and not every employer understands the challenges that go with somebody that's got learning difficulties, someone that has those sorts of challenges of basic skills, really, and that, to be fair, has been quite difficult for Becky, and I know it's still difficulties there with that. But the key thing is getting routine, because if someone has got challenges with learning difficulties and the like, sometimes it's not about money. It's about having routine, a purpose to be able to get up on a morning and understand and know what you're going to be doing that day, Becky's had it tough, but we're all there as a family to support her and get But one of the reasons why I wanted to get into politics, I think.
I'm an only child, so I can't relate to this, but suddenly not living with your sisters, going from living with them and obviously them being playing with them and hanging out and them being the closest young people to you in your life, to only seeing them in holidays. That must have been painful. Yeah,
well, it was difficult, yeah, no doubt about that. And I think when you go through your teenage years, you are then not having that same level of interaction with your sisters as your average family. But I think I got to know them better actually when I got a bit older, a bit like sort of 18, going off to, went to uni, and Rachel, she went to uni at the same time. And that's when you started to build up that relationship, because you were then going out socially with them. And that's when it ended up getting quite fun actually. Becky had her challenges and still has her challenges with learning difficulties, but we deal with it and we crack on. That is what families then do regardless of their circumstances. Mum got remarried, and I've got an awesome younger sister who is 16, and she is going through life and absolutely loving it, and things have been difficult in that respect, because Mum got remarried, and Mac, or as we called him, or John, who was he was known to everyone else. He died when he was 46 from liver cancer. My younger sister, who's 16, she would have been maybe about 6 or 7 when her dad died. My stepdad died. And that was absolutely tough at that time because we were there as older brothers and sisters, me, Rachel and Becky, to be able to support Freya through that. This is all what makes us as we are today. Everyone goes through difficult challenges in life, but it makes us as individuals. And yes, tough experiences, but it's something that absolutely makes you who we are. Makes you as an individual now to take forward and go on in life to give something back. Really.
Were your parents Conservative voters?
Dad would be Conservative. Mum, I don't know. I don't think. Mum isn't political at all. Mum, we're not really a huge political family. Mum would be. I don't think Mum votes Conservative, but Dad probably is. But politics has never really actually been a big thing that we've been discussed around the dinner table or, as growing up. And I only got involved really with the Conservative Party properly in 2015, really. So not that long ago. Always had a very keen interest in politics, but then never really got involved myself. I was that busy doing my own thing, cracking on with my own career. I'm, I suppose, not from a political background. Had my own business, worked as a chartered surveyor before coming into politics. And I think that's refreshing, actually. It's refreshing to come into politics with a skill set that you can bring to the table rather than having worked through the political system. I didn't do politics at uni, didn't work as a special advisor. Crikey, the first time I've been to Westminster was on a school trip. Second time, come back as a member of Parliament. But with a bit of life skill, a bit of business background that you can bring something to the table. So
what happened in 2015 that made you decide that you were going to become an active Conservative?
I think it was frustration, if I'm being honest. It was it was the run-up to the 2015 election, and it was a cold January day when I first got involved and knocked on our local Conservative campaign office door and said, "Look, how can I get involved?" I was listening to Radio 4, I think, on the Debate Today programme on the way into work, and I just became frustrated, and I thought, crikey, frustrated with the system, I think, and frustrated that there wasn't enough fresh ideas coming forward, particularly from the opposition. Ed Miliband was the leader of the Labour Party at the time, and I was frustrated with what he was coming out with I think he was actually on the Today programme, and I thought, I want to get involved, and had no ambition at all at that time of, crikey, becoming a member of Parliament. Just wanted to do my bit, whether it was delivering a few leaflets, really. But one thing went to another, and it just ended up snowballing, really, and absolutely loving it. No day is ever the same, and love the variety, and loving that feeling of doing my small bit to make my part of the world a better place, really.
Maybe you're almost too normal for Parliament. It's quite an odd place.
Yeah, it's a bizarre place. Yeah. Westminster. I still feel that I'm learning the system of how to get stuff done in Westminster. Absolutely, and it's quite daunting when you come to Westminster as a member of Parliament, and it's also daunting being an MP in your own constituency because you're getting correspondence coming at you from all angles on all topics, and you're absolutely wanting to do the best that you can to help everybody. But of course, we don't have all of the answers, and of course we don't know what the right strategy is to be able to help every individual. But crikey, we learn how to do it, and we pick the bull by the horns, so to speak, to be able to crack on and do that. But it's I'm 20 months in now and still learning, and I think it's full of enthusiasm, energy, and commitment, and willing to do my bit, really.
Do you have a partner?
No, it's just me, which enables me to I suppose I'm one of these people that never really takes time out for myself, and I'm really bad at that. I suppose my weakness really is just ending up being completely absorbed by the job without taking time out for myself, really. But no, it's something I need to spend more time and work on, really. Yeah.
Because it's quite important when you're in that environment to have somebody who you can confide in. And
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and have time out and actually just have chew the cud, so to speak, and talk about how the day's gone.
It can be lonely, I think.
Yeah,
I think
I suppose it is. And what you end up doing is, because no one else really gets the job, let's be honest about it, other than other colleagues.
Yeah.
And that's actually why that when you are down in Westminster, being able just to grab a cup of tea or a beer with other parliamentary colleagues is actually quite refreshing to do that, because everyone else, we all get the pressures. You get the full amount of correspondence that you're getting on a particular issue, how you've dealt with it. And that's actually quite refreshing, to be honest. It's that's quite a nice environment to be in.
And in doing my research, I noticed that you're pressing for a Bradford, my hometown, a sexual abuse inquiry in Bradford, child sexual abuse and exploitation. I'm guessing is the.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. And why.
Absolutely right. And I am calling for that loud and clear. So child sexual abuse, child sexual exploitation, grooming has gone on across the Bradford district for decades, and particularly been a strong issue in Keighley. And I would strongly argue that since Anne Cryer, who was the Member of Parliament for Keighley 20 years ago, who did an excellent job in calling this issue out for what it was at the time 20 years ago, no traction has really changed in that period since Anne was the Member of Parliament. And what we saw in the summer was a very light review being released that said that there had been multi-agency failings across the Bradford district, failings by Bradford Council, failings by West Yorkshire Police, and concluded that there are still children in the Bradford district that remain at risk, and there is an unknown quantity of perpetrators out there that remain unchallenged. And we have to, in my view, call this issue out for what it is, and that is, if you're looking at the common denominator, a minority of Pakistani Muslim men targeting young children, and it is absolutely unfair on that Pakistani community to be branded with the same accusation. And my view is that we have to understand the scale of these horrific events that have happened and continue to happen across the Bradford district. Understand the scale so we can get true learning to go forward and provide that reassurance to victims that have gone through these horrific events to have trust back in the system that is meant to be protecting them. And that is why I'm calling for a full Rotherham-style inquiry into child sexual exploitation across the Bradford district.
What do you say to those people that say you can't single out particular people as being responsible for a particular crime?
Well, I think you have to be sensible about this and look at what the common denominator is and the facts. And that is exactly the factual situation if you look at child sexual exploitation within the Bradford district. And it's no different if you're looking at other issues like child sexual exploitation that's gone on in the Catholic Church, or what's gone on with Jimmy Savile and the like. But you have to look at what those issues are that are haunting a particular community so you can get to grips with that issue that is impacting that community. Because if you don't, you run the risk of the far right, for example, in my constituency, taking control of that conversation. And that's exactly what happened in Keighley back in 2005, when you had the likes of Nick Griffin from the BNP standing to be a Member of Parliament for Keighley, running on the back of this conversation, trying to stir up racial tensions. And my view is that you absolutely have to have someone that's sensible, that's willing to take control of the narrative so you can get to grips with the issue.
You obviously are in the governing party.
Yeah.
Do you think, could the Home Secretary grant this? How do you think it can be achieved, what you want to happen?
Well, if you look at what happened in Rotherham, it was Rotherham Council that instigated the Rotherham-style reviews, so that J report. And I suspect at the time when Rotherham Council instigated that, they didn't think it was going to be quite as damning as it was. But what was clear is that actually the local authority, so Bradford Council, have the ability to instigate a full independent review of the scale of which the J report was undertaken in Rotherham.
You've been quite vocal about your demands for this inquiry. Have you felt any tension? Have you been subject to any abuse from anybody around the constituency because of your calls for this inquiry?
I haven't actually, no, not yet, no. And I'm conscious that others have in the past, but I haven't yet. And I actually think that illustrates that there is a desire by the community that I'm representing to get to the bottom of this. If you go and knock on any door, and it is the strongest conversation that comes up when I'm going around the constituency speaking to residents, is the issue that child grooming, child sexual exploitation has not been tackled properly, and there is a strong willingness that we need to tackle this once and for all and get to the bottom of it. And that linked to the strong issues that we have with drug dealing across the constituency. Now, these two issues are interlinked, and my residents are, I believe, are right behind me in calling for this. And perhaps that illustrates why I have not received any abuse on this subject yet. Any abuse on any subject? Yes, yeah, and I think every MP does, unfortunately, and that's been one of the things that I wasn't prepared for when becoming a Member of Parliament. And it saddens me to say that actually it seems to be one of these things that goes with the job. But let's not forget, all of us sat round here as, whether you're a parish councillor or a Member of Parliament, we're all standing up to put our heads above the parapet to do the right thing to improve our communities. And it's a shame that a lot of us get horrendous amounts of abuse, and you only have to look at the extreme of what's happened in the last 5 years with the likes of Joe Cox, and only 10 days ago with Sir David Amess. You changing the way you do surgeries? Well, no, I'm not. My view is that I have to be, and I think for a Member of Parliament to be to do their job properly is to be as accessible to their constituents as possible. And I really enjoy doing supermarket surgeries, street surgeries, and having constituents into the office or the village hall or wherever it may be. Of course, we've got to do our due diligence, and we've got to keep our wits about us as a Member of Parliament. But as Members of Parliament, we've got to be accessible, and I love nothing more than doing that, whether it's knocking on a door, speaking to a resident, or getting out and interacting with them. That is what our job is, to represent our communities. Robbie Moore, thank you very much indeed for your time today. Thanks.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.